All right, everybody, welcome to the episode of the Happy Craftsman Podcast. I'm Chris. With me here is Nate.
Hello.
And we are on location with two good friends of the show,
Yes.
Dave and Dylan. How are you going?
Look at you two.
Yo,
Oh,
thanks
man.
for having
You
us.
got moving closer.
Thanks for having us.
There you go. Oh,
There we go.
You guys
that's
look
that
good.
sultry voice.
Dude, it's good to be back, man.
It's been a little while.
How long has it been?
I went and looked earlier. It's 2017 when we actually first recorded with you guys, which
That was the first time.
feels long. It feels like, they just told me it was what, 7 years ago?
Yep.
I can't do math.
I told
so-
you should have had your doctorate
Yeah.
in that amount of time.
And I was like, Dave could have been a dentist like he wanted to be.
I started out this day so positive, and now
He's like, how dare you?
How dare you?
you're bringing up the heavy stuff right out of the bat.
Maybe he did get his dentistry.
We're still trying to figure out what we
And
want
be-
to be when we grow up.
Yeah,
You
well,
know?
never know. Nobody ever knows.
No,
No, we are back. It's amazing to be back. A lot has changed, to say the least, as far as how you guys operate, what's going on.
we got some new jokes.
You got new jokes,
Yeah, listen.
good ones.
I heard Dylan's new joke earlier, and it's a really good joke.
Yeah.
And now we're all going
Is
to
it-
stare at him.
it-
We're all staring at him.
I heard a good one the other day, and I got to remember it. So
All right. Well, give us some time.
Well, he only adopts like one new joke a year.
Yeah, that's fair.
So we just took a tour of, a new location for you guys. Do we want to start there?
Yeah,
Take a look and talk a little bit about that and how. I mean, I guess what was the first step to doing that? I guess you guys realized that property was available, and what was there previously? Was anything?
Yeah,
Something
when we
like
moved in originally, we had that same neighbor, and they were doing some custom kind of programming for user interface screens for farms.
Gotcha.
And they ended up getting an opportunity to merge with another company and moved up north, closer to the clientele. And so we were no one was expecting that vacancy.
Right.
And just because it was, by virtue of it being our next door neighbor, obviously it's uniquely valuable to us. And so the situation of the buildings is not perfectly convenient because they're not adjacent physically. And so it creates some engineering problems, which we kind of walk through, which includes the Tempe's smallest monorail.
Yes.
Transfer line that goes between buildings.
Yeah, we'll have to post
and so
a
we've
photo
had some
of that.
engineering challenges to try to make it work, but I think we've definitely tried to make the juice worth the squeeze.
Yeah. And I think you guys have done a good job. I mean, it's pretty crazy what you guys are building over there, and I think we'll dive more into that. But I mean, strictly from a church music aspect alone, I mean, it's incredible how much that beer has grown and how big it is in the valley. I mean,
Well, it's funny because we talk about it on the show multiple times. It's just like it's so nice to be able to go out to places and
Oh, yeah.
you go to like Barrows or go to some restaurant and I'm always like, okay, please. And I look and it's like church music. I'm like, yes, and that's what I order. So I'm like, it's phenomenal for me to be able to go to places out and actually find Arizona craft beer and you guys to be there. It's always amazing to see. So but that being said, we were here. We brewed beer with you guys. We've been in this facility and the space that you guys had to work with, and it's like, how did they get from where we were at, where we saw you guys, to now being in like all the restaurants we ever go to, and in like my local grocery store and the bashes, and it's just insane.
Yeah, if you guys could give us a little bit about how that ramped up and what you were originally producing to what you're producing now, I'd be kind of curious because, like I said, I mean, it is everywhere. As you not
I'm
news,
sure
it is
you
not
guys know.
news to you, but it is everywhere. And that badass facility we just went through, where they were just pumping kegs full of that stuff. I mean, it's the best Willy Wonka on earth. It's great. It's perfect.
He's gonna turn violet soon. So
I'm gonna turn into a
seriously.
blueberry here in
Yeah.
a minute. But yeah, no, a little bit how that how we got there, and really, I'm curious to know what you guys are making today.
I guess to start, when we first signed with Hensley, I think we went in with the wrong expectation of what it was like to work with a distributor. Think, we're going to make the beer, they're going to pick it up. We're made men, right?
They're gone.
Yeah, like we're in the mafia now. We're made men. You can't touch us.
Send the checks. Here's the address.
There's guys you can hit, and there's guys you cannot hit.
Exactly. And what we figured out, we were still guys you can hit pretty quickly. And I think that was a really valuable learning lesson for us, because this mentality that I think people of all industry have of, I'm going to get out of the grind. I'm going to stop working hard, and I've made it, and we've done all the work.
Right.
Totally wrong.
There's a level you can get to, you can just coast kind of situation, right?
That's
what you think.
Yeah, and 17 was a really, like, it was it stretched us in different ways, right? So when we were talking with Hensley, we're like, okay, we're going to redo our entire sales program in basically 2 sentences. We want to distribute strictly in Tempe, on premise only, and we want the Tempe Hensley reps to be our best friends. That's basically it. And we're going to spend more time at fewer accounts and make sure that they know our story. Make sure that the bartenders know our names. And just that one at a time mentality took hold at a few accounts. You know, Casey Moore's is the white whale of all accounts. Everybody in the industry knows it.
Yeah.
And for us, that was like a totem that we need to be at every bar that surrounds Casey Moore's. So it's a no-brainer for them to put on one of our beers. And at that time, you know, summer of 17 was when we brewed church music. It was like, we'll give it a run. We'll probably change the name, change the recipe, you know, do something else. But the best advice we ever got was give the people what they want. And that's what we did. We just kept brewing it. And it grew a little bit. And we'd get 2 accounts, and then you go to 3, and then it'd go to 5, and then you get 8. And then you're like, oh shit, we got 12. Okay, this is juicing. Okay, maybe we need to buy some more equipment. And really that's been the mentality. So we held on premise only until basically COVID. And really what that gave us was a huge springboard into off premise and be able to focus on that. So people that were out at bars drinking had never been able to get our church music or any of our beers in a can. Minus a couple small releases like the one we did.
Right.
And so accidentally we created this tidal wave of consumers that were looking for our product on the shelf. And that really helped. And, you know, even for me now, seeing the volume that we do of church music and just the size of the brewery, it's very humbling. We're very grateful. Like, the only thing that really matters is, does the consumer like the beer? And will they drink it twice, 3 times, 4 times? And if they like it, are they telling their friends?
Right.
That's the industry,
Right.
as I know it. And anything more complex, you can definitely get into the data and the numbers. There's value there for sure. But if the beer's consistent, it's good, and the consumer wants it, and people feel cool holding that can or ordering that product,
Yeah. You've done a good job.
you know, it just takes over.
Yeah.
And I think the runway for us was, I think, I'll speak for myself. I didn't understand how deep the pool was that we were swimming in,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, I've talked to, you know, I'll talk to people and you know we do this, or somehow this podcast will come up, or I like craft beer or something, and then they'll be like, oh, you know, I like church music a lot, and I was just like, yes, that's not, you know, in the past that's not something that I'd normally, that's something that would bring, I think it's some other like Four Peaks or somebody else, but for multiple people at this time, like, to mention that their favorite beer, their favorite IP is the church music, I'm like, you are correct. That is a good answer. So, and it's awesome. It's a great testament to what you guys have been doing here. It's so cool, and it's again, nothing better to go into a restaurant or place and be able to see you guys' stuff on draft and be excited about it and be happy for you guys and see how much you've like where that's come from. It's
man,
awesome.
well, you know, I mean, I know that you recall this, but for the benefit of everyone else, I mean, we started on a half barrel system, so a whole day's labor was producing not even a full half barrel, you know, like with loss and, you know, boil off and everything.
Right.
We would yield about 13, 14 gallons, you know, per day, you know, so then we had to buy kegs that were you know, smaller European standards so that we could fill a keg all the way to the top.
Yeah.
And it's just so ridiculous that, you know, I feel like, and some days it feels like it's been a whole eon of time.
Right.
And sometimes it feels like it's been 15 minutes, you know, and it's like, we're still learning all the time, but, you know, I still have, you know, personal friends will text me pictures from a grocery store or a menu at a restaurant. And the fun and novelty of that is, it never actually gets old. It's so exciting to see these things that you care about out into the world. And when it's embraced that way, there's really I can't really compare that thrill, that stoke, to anything else,
Right,
you know.
right.
It's a
And
special
it
feeling,
just continues to be a source of joy. And so, you know, in all this time, we have a team that works really hard, and so we put in the work. But you know, a fair amount of luck has gone into things, and so we're thankful for that. You know, I don't know that I don't think we're in a position to say that, oh, well, you know, we're just super smart or whatever, and we figured it out.
Right.
You figured
there's
out a good beer.
There's a lot of
I mean,
smart folks in the world, you know, and so we're really thankful for having that support. Yeah,
Yeah.
It makes the it means the world to us.
Yeah.
You showed me your cooler. How much you guys roughly moving a day? You said you empty that every day. That big
We
walk-in?
move 100% per day.
all of it. We move all of it a day.
Hey, what does your Apple Watch say? How many rings do you put every day?
we do
I mean,
100%.
you're brewing church music nonstop.
Yeah, well, we've got a second system now. So we've got a 3-barrel pilot system that we got from Historic and from I think the first owner was Mother Road.
I think it was Mother Road's first system.
And then a Historic won their silver medal and for the barrel aged sour off this little pilot kit.
Nice.
And then it was just kind of in the corner for a while, and we were up there hanging with those guys and said, how would you feel about us dusting that thing off and putting it to use? And so we relocated the whole system, and it took about a month to kind of put our ideas together. And so we've got a pretty robust now variety program for just taproom, novelty and
Right.
test batching.
Yeah.
And then of course we're on a high gravity 20-barrel three vessel system.
Yeah.
And so when we first moved into this facility, we were doing, a couple of batches a month, and because that was a huge jump up for us.
Oh yeah.
And then, now we're brewing 6 days a week, so church is definitely our flagship.
Yeah.
And so, but we're pretty excited to have enough cellar now that we can do a bunch of variety projects. And
Oh, absolutely.
like today's a great example. We're doing a collab with Crosby, the hop farm up in Oregon.
Right.
And by coincidence, also hosting for the Arizona Society of Homebrewers for the Pro-Am competition. So
Yeah, a lot of cool
by
things
volume,
happening.
we definitely do, good amounts of crispy, our blonde lager and church music. But we also have our neonic orange sour in the market, and we do a lot of those neonic variety projects in the tap room. So we get to play.
Oh, absolutely.
And we've got a pretty robust cellar too in our stout program. We've been loving making those. And so we still maintain quite a bit of variety. At the tap room, we've got way more than sort of what's out in the world. And so I think church music casts a big shadow in that particular way. But we maintain a pretty robust variety program.
Well, let me qualify that in that I think that anybody that knows the shop, you guys make a lot of good beer. You know what I mean? Like Crispy is, we're had my second one right now, but it's so good. It's tasting so good. But no, I think in my opinion, as somebody, maybe it's because I'm just I know a lot about craft beer. It doesn't certainly cast a shadow in my opinion, other than a positive one. I mean, just like, gosh, you guys are just killing it. I imagine you guys making that beer a lot and making a lot of other great beers at the same time. But it's nice to see. Like, it's nice to see a brewery like this putting that beer out and seeing it everywhere. It is very positive for people who like smaller craft breweries, because this was a small craft brewery at one point. I mean, you guys.
I still feel pretty small.
You still feel small. I bet you do. I mean, the facility. It's a pretty amazing facility you guys have here now. But I can understand why you still have that feel, because it's a very tight knit. I mean, you guys are the same unit.
It doesn't feel completely real yet.
Right.
We're at about 90% completion at the the date of this recording, and it doesn't really feel like it feels like an externalized project still.
Right.
As of today, we've got, walls up and painted and floors are down. We got kitchen appliances to install and countertops. So, we can kind of see the bones and we can kind of see what our life will be like, but that's not our life yet,
Right.
And so, there was an advert some years ago. I think it was for Volkswagen, and this young couple's going on the lot looking at their Jetta or whatever. And this young guy's kind of scoping the same car, and he runs over and licks the handle, right? And he doesn't say anything. He just stands there awkwardly, and the couple's like,
Dibs.
"Did you just lick the handle of the car?" And he's like, "That one's mine now." Right? You know the ad I'm talking about. And it's so funny. It's just so funny. And it was just like, he didn't know what else to do. I want the car, and so he literally licks the handle. And I'm like, that's pretty much what I feel like I need to do on this project.
Yeah, you're over there licking handles.
We haven't gotten to the handle yet.
There just needs to
We're
be
still
one.
shopping what our new world will feel like, but we haven't gotten to the handle just quite yet.
Well, it's exciting. It's exciting.
I want to actually get into, you actually have a new role too, besides being sales manager of this place, right?
Which one is
You're
that?
the president.
He's like, I have a couple
you're
of roles.
president of the Arizona Craft Brewers Board,
Doesn't
right?
like working for free.
Yeah. Some people might call you a president, El Presidente.
Nothing like working for free.
So I want to see how that ties into what you do here, and how you basically use that position to help better Arizona craft beer in general? Like, what for people that don't know what you do? Explain a little bit what it's about and what your guys' mission is.
Yeah, so I think that the general idea, or maybe the thought is, well, what does the guild actually do? What's its real function? And the answer is really kind of boring.
Right.
It's the expansion, protection of the Series 3 license. And the Series 3 license in Arizona allows you to produce beer, right?
Yeah.
We would like to think that every advancement that we've made is stable. We'd like to think that we have a fair taxation rate that shouldn't change. We would like to think that the political rhetoric, or maybe you just talk to people in the market and they say, oh, we need manufacturing in America. Breweries are manufacturing businesses.
100%. Yeah,
right?
I don't think people realize that as much as it actually is.
And when you look at what the guild's job is, and this is the misconception we get, the guild's job is to protect, preserve, and enhance, and also defend the Series 3 license. And that's really where most of the time is spent. Now, what the consumer sees, who goes to Strong Beer, is out here, we try and run a good festival. Well, what is that money for? Money is basically to lobby. That money is to make sure that weird things don't sneak in, to make sure that our taxation rate doesn't double, which we blocked this year. I mean, double would be a hyperbolic way to say it, but anything over 5.5% would get taxed on every point, therefore after. So the quiet wins that we have, nobody really cares or knows about, and that's okay. And then it's not like a marketable. Hey guys, we're doing such a great job.
We are not going to get charged.
No, but I think that there's a lot of things that go unsaid that people don't realize how good we have it, and it's because of things that the guild does, right? I mean, it's really weird because you start talking to other people in different states, and they're like, "What's a crowler? I didn't know what I don't even know what a crowler is. Like, you can't do a crowler. Oh, growlers. Oh, well, they have to be a glass. And they have to be from and stuff like that. Where just people don't realize how those things get changed and how much goes into it, and that the guild does, which is amazing to me.
It's also our downside on the guild, right? I think that maybe what a lot of other producers might have complaints about would be it should be more forward facing. It should be friendlier. It should be trying to sell more Arizona beer. And those are fine statements, right? There's nothing wrong with making that proclamation. But when you're playing defense and you're trying to go on offense on things that are blind and complex,
right?
That's where I think that's where maybe we, the collective, stumbles. Where if I think we have a pretty unified group of breweries here, but figuring out hey, the guilds we lobby, right? We're down at the Senate. We're trying to make sure that we're doing the right thing, and the hardship is when we get requests for social issues. Whether I agree or disagree doesn't matter. And to the guild, it's all about we're a non-trade organization. So we can't really partake in a lot of things. Now we'll give resources, we'll give recommendations. And that's kind of that rub is well, what are our resources for smaller breweries? Or what are the resources when maybe an employee or an owner or something happens? What is our role in that? We're not the police. And that's a really sticky point. And that's where we rub people the wrong way on the guild. And that's what I wish we had a little bit better, maybe rhetoric or a couple sentences that sounded a little nicer, but
I mean, it's funny looking at the other way, there, even if you guys were that way, if you came into businesses and were like, hey, you guys can't do your can art like the way your guys doing it, right? Nobody wants that. That's the other side of it, right? If you start having too much oversight, people are going to be like, why are you guys doing this? So it's a very fine line, I think, between those two situations. I think that the way, making things accessible and giving things to people and pointing them in the right direction is going to help. Because if I was running a business, I don't want other people coming in and tell me how I should run my business. I want to run it the way I want to run my business. Will I ask other people for advice and I trust and whatever? Yeah, that's probably a good way to run your business. And if you're not doing it that way, then there's an issue, right? But I think when you start getting into it too much, I think people are going to have an issue that way too, right? You can't please everybody, and that's the hard part.
Yeah, because you can be an informed advocacy group for the for the industry.
100%.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really its intended social position.
Yeah.
But by virtue of it not having any authority to enforce,
It makes it tough.
it's just like, let's just suppose you wanted to put your nose in somebody else's bit, which we might have no intention of doing.
Right.
But let's just suppose you didn't like something.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't like it, it's just words, because you don't really, you can't affect anyone. Like, you can't impose any authority to sanction anything that would inhibit or, prevent them from being successful. So, the expectation that you would authenticate or police anything is really just a misunderstanding of misreading of the tea leaves kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think they do a really phenomenal job as a collective group, sharing information and being a resource for best practices. But
Yeah, there's definitely advancement there. Definitely some refining to do. Kind of going back to square one on some festivals, moving real wild and woody to real wild and woodsy. Actually, it was one of my favorite beer festivals that I participated in.
I was out of town, and I think I was with you, and
Well, let me ask
we were
you
in Maine.
this. Did you guys
were
hear
we?
any feedback on it? Because
Oh,
I would
I
like
not.
your.
I heard nothing but good things about it. Like I was really bummed that I actually missed it, and I was really bummed that I missed out on the little tiny
the mugs.
the mug. I was so bummed. I was like, that's such a cool mug. I was
I
like,
know.
damn, of all the cool things that
You would not imagine the battle that got fought over. You can't see the beer. It's not clear. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's a mug. It's in Flagstaff. It's cute.
Come on.
Everybody
It's
likes
cute.
it. Like,
Yeah,
come
dude.
on. Like, who gives a shit? Like,
we're having fun
and
here.
it's gonna photograph
That's
well.
great, dude.
And we couldn't have glass.
Right.
Right. It's out in the train park, the
train park,
historical.
right? Yep.
I don't know. I think it's a historical site or whatever. Like, dude, this is awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
just drink the beer.
Yeah.
Enjoy it, and dive into the culture and the community of it. And if it's that big of a deal, we'll make a change and
Right.
we'll apologize
Yeah.
for it. But I like the mug though.
Yeah, I love it.
yeah, that looks sick.
It drives me crazy. I guess as a consumer, it's one of those things where I'm like, it's hard. Like things that actually benefit consumers and make it a better experience and a better, for them. But all the bureaucracy and red tape gets in the way. It's just it's so irritating sometimes. You're like, that doesn't make nobody cares. Like the thousands of people that come to this festival don't care about that shit. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care if I can't see the beer. Oh damn! But
But a
bureaucracy,
cool mug rocks.
Yeah, but that's what I care about, right?
And
that's
it's a fair point though.
Yeah.
Right. To me, it's a total fair point. And I just say, let's just try it out, man.
try
Nobody's
it out.
not gonna come out.
1 year.
What
yeah.
what is
I know that mug's not see through. I'm not going. I'm not going anywhere.
So the mug's not see through. So what is the reason and why it has to be see through? Like that's like to me is like, okay,
To see pour
in
limits.
case they're pouring like vodka in there. Like what? Like what is?
It's got to be something silly like
Yeah,
pouring limits, right?
And this wasn't like a tidal wave of.
No, I understand.
Of course,
There's
it's just it's an interesting
there
conversation.
there are things that they're like this in general that happen all the time where it's just like it doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense. Like
bureaucracy of it.
Yes, there's going to be outside cases and things and whatever, but
I think that anytime somebody is making something with their hands and
they
they
want people to
have
see it.
a stake in this, right?
okay,
So you've heard the saying, like you eat with your eyes,
Gotcha.
okay,
or
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you drink with your eyes, you eat with your eyes,
Same-
that kind
yeah,
of thing,
no,
right?
right on
so
board,
like,
yeah.
I think that when somebody's really trying to get a product, an elevated flavor profile, they want it to look a certain way, and it's really hard to say. Yeah, I don't give a shit about that for this
Yeah,
festival.
well-
And that's what I wouldn't ever say that, but that's the way it would come across.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I guess from a brewer standpoint, I mean that makes sense, right? Like you want to put a product out there that looks good and presents well.
My question to me: can you smell it?
But yeah,
Then
I
you
mean,
can- then you're good to move forward
I
with drinking it.
But I think that for me,
I get it though.
it's
the through line of beer is always like, yeah, we can make the best beers in the world. It's still beer, and that's not meant to
Right.
dumb it down. It's a drink for everybody. I think world class beer is one of the best alcoholic beverages that's made, 100%. But I think that there's a fun nature.
well,
There's a playful nature to beer that's pretty unique, and I think that's why we love it so much.
Well, and I come back to that all the time, and it's something that and we all talked about when we first, like, if you're not having fun making beer, why are you doing it? Like, I think you said it. It was one of the things you said, and I was just like, yes, 100%. Like, it has to be fun. I think it was about our collab, right? It was like, let's.
But I imagine your guys, the size you're achieving, sometimes it's not fun. And,
You
but
know,
it's
that's-
but you're a, but so sorry, but you're a company that produces wages for families, and I mean, You're doing
yeah.
it for many reasons now.
Actually, that's a dynamic that takes a certain kind of strategy to protect, because when you're having fun and the risks are reasonably modest and constrained and limited to only a few people, you can kind of giggle while you're working on a project. Say, "Oh, this is silly. We're having fun with this one."
Yeah.
And that kind of
lighthearted
energy
situation.
is positive, but there's an irresponsibility nested in that, right? There's like it's you're giggling because it's just so ridiculous. Oh my God, we're gonna call it we're gonna funny name or whatever it is. And what you're doing is you're enjoying your life and you're sharing that with your friends, right? That's what that moment is all about. Now, so that's fine and it's useful and it enriches your life. But as your business gets more serious and your budget goes up and your payroll goes up, and all of a sudden, it isn't risk-free anymore. And so, especially when people start to get stressed about the future and money's getting tight and I got to be concerned about, making payroll next week and I got a big, raw materials order and I haven't gotten paid by such and such, hey, if that check doesn't get cashed, we're going to have a challenge on Friday. Like, we got to make sure it's making sure you're checking the mail every day, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So every small business goes through these paces, right? Mm-hmm. And so when that pressure mounts like it does in anybody's life as they're trying to grow and mature, or any small business, the first thing that goes away is the lightheartedness. Mm-hmm. Because when you're experiencing stress and concern for your well-being, you want to be responsible, right? It's like, yeah, I want to have fun, but I gotta also make sure that the lights stay on, right?
Right.
And so I think it takes a lot of strategy to create an environment where you can take yourself and your work with a certain kind of seriousness, and you can be intelligent and informed and responsible. But then you've also got to create some room in your life to have some sanctuary time with your team away from that. And you guard that with your life. You lose it at your peril. Right. Because if we were to allow ourselves to not remember why we wanted to do it in the first place, that fun would just go right out the window. Nice. And so there's a kind of discipline. It's like I always joke that it's a professional kung fu. So there's a practice behind the scenes to insulate yourself for moments of your week where you can say, hey, I have to, number one, remain at first principles. I have to consistently remind myself that, number one, I shouldn't take myself too seriously, but I should show up on time. You know what I'm saying?
Be serious, right?
Well, yeah. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
It's a whistle while you work strategy. It's like, if I don't work hard, I won't have these opportunities to have fun. But when those opportunities arrive, if I don't have fun and actual fact, well, then I've disrupted the flow I signed up for.
Yeah. So there's it makes perfect sense. I mean, it's a very interesting way to put that.
But so the phrase we use internally is tenaciously playful.
Nice.
And the hope is to have fun and take it seriously, but do it at a high level. And that means we want to be excellent. We want to be consistent. We want to have uniquely identifiable products. Mm-hmm. But we also don't want to lose ourselves in being all business and business. It's like, no, we get to enjoy it so long as we choose that on a regular basis. And so we're thankful for that.
I think a lot of the struggles and the fun that we've had is probably the same for you guys. And I just want to say thank you for still doing this shit. I mean, through COVID, through everything, through family, through life, it means more to the industry than I think you give it credit for.
We appreciate it. We do it because there's industries full of good people.
When people actually care, they give a shit. They put their dollars behind it. But more importantly, put their time behind it.
Yeah.
Those are our biggest resources in life is time and money, right?
Absolutely.
And I think time is the most valuable resource we have. And you guys give that to this industry. And I want you guys to know I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And let's not make sure it goes 7 years.
Yeah, we'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's definitely, it's a labor of love for sure. That's how it works. So kind of what you're talking about with the whole seriousness and having to be lighthearted a little bit too at the same time. So there's a Saturday Night Live thing forever ago. And it was like Phil Hartman was the guy that did it, like the voiceover, but it was Jack Handy's Deeper Thoughts. Do you remember those?
I do very well. Yeah.
And there was a deeper thought that it's the funniest thing, but I'm like, it is a deep thought. It was such a deep thought. And it was, if you're ever robbing a bank and your pants fall down, I think it's okay to laugh. and it's okay to let everybody else laugh too. Because come on, life's funny like that. And I'm like, that is 100% way to. I mean, that's really good because it's such a serious situation. You're robbing a bank and your pants fall down. Okay, come on, everybody's got to laugh at that, right?
Well, and if that doesn't work, to my way of thinking, there ain't nothing that can't be solved by a big old pot of beans, except for maybe bean fever.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Jack Handy.
Except maybe bean fever.
An inspiration in my early years.
Yeah, dude.
I love that, man.
If your keys ever fall into a river of molten lava, just let them go, man.
Just let him go.
They're gone.
Go, man.
Yeah, that's so good. But yeah, let's get another beer, and we'll come back and we'll have another
finish
guest.
up.
I like it.
Sounds
I like
good.
it a lot.
All right.
All right, welcome back. We're back from our break. We got a couple more guests here at the shop, and here with Chris as well. But also,
I'm still here.
Yes. Introduce yourself, guys. We have a
Jason?
head brewer.
Yes.
Yes, and
Yep, Brad Veltman. I work with Crosby Hops.
nice. Thanks for joining us, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. So, I had a couple things. What are you guys doing together? What are you two doing?
Why
together?
are you guys here today?
Yeah. Why?
What are you doing?
What are you doing together? today?
We're dating.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really nice.
I'm
First
down
of all-
here for the sunshine.
I mean, I don't know a lot
All
about
good
Crosby,
answers so far.
but I know that they're not in Arizona, right? They're not. You don't grow hops here, right?
No,
that's
no,
weird.
no hops grown here. So, yeah, the farm is based in Woodburn, which is, I live in Portland, Oregon. So,
Nice.
Flew down yesterday to hang with these boys, and then we're brewing a collab today for the Craft Brewers Conference for CBC.
Lovely.
Which will be in Vegas in end of April.
Nice.
So, yeah, picked out some really fun, unique ingredients for this particular batch, some really fun New Zealand stuff, as well as some Idaho 7 that we grew in Oregon. It's probably some of the only Oregon-grown Idaho 7 on the planet.
No kidding.
Yeah, so really unique
Where does that
ingredients.
typically grown?
Idaho, as you'd guess.
I was just say Utah,
For our
but
guests, I just want to make sure,
Yeah, we grow. It's a variety. It's a variety that we only have about 2 acres, an acre to 2
Wow.
acres.
Oh, shit.
And the farm in general is we're growing on.
Seems like a lot, but I'm guessing you have other varietals that take up way more acreage.
Yes,
Okay.
that is the smallest of any acreage of
Okay.
any variety that we grow.
Gotcha.
So usually we just offer it for fresh hops. But this year we had a little bit of a bumper crop. So we actually put some in the kiln, dried it out, and I think we yielded all of 800 pounds or so. So it's very, very, very unique
Limited.
inventory. Yeah, so we wanted to throw it into this batch.
So is Idaho 7 kind of like the champagne of the world? You can't call it Idaho 7 if it's not grown in Idaho.
Yeah.
It's like Oregon 7.
Yeah, it's Oregon 7. Like it's like this is a sparkling. Yeah.
Woodburn 7.
Yeah, there we go. All right.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, it's a rad variety. These guys use it a lot in church, and this particular lot of it, which is just kind of the stuff that we grew, very unique. So fun to throw it in this batch.
So how did you guys get from you're growing hops up in the Pacific Northwest to connecting with these guys to come down here and brew a beer? How does that work out? Like is Jason up there be like smelling hops and he's like, hey, you come here? Like how does that work?
It was matchmaker, man. 5 years ago. So I've been with the company a little over 5 years.
Okay.
I used to cover the Arizona market. Now I'm just covering our Pacific Northwest. But
Nice.
these guys are one of my favorites, so I still retain them as one of my customers. But funny enough, it was the first cold call that I ever made
really?
with Crosby. Was calling
No
Dave's
kidding.
cell phone. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, so he was nice enough to pick up, and we chatted.
First sight.
Yeah, and the rest is history. Yeah,
Okay.
we chatted for a while, and
I would imagine Chad for a long while.
he's a good talker. So
Yeah.
and he's very inquisitive and asks the right questions.
Nice.
And I was brand new with the company, so
Okay.
I probably I don't know if I told him the truth or lied to him or
Whatever he needed to hear.
exactly.
Whatever
Made
he
the
needed.
sale, baby. Yeah, but it's
It's all Wolf of Wall Street. You know how it works. Yeah.
Whatever he needed.
yeah, so
that's good.
That's how kind of I got in with these guys, and obviously their growth has been a thing to watch. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
been really
impressive.
fun to grow with them. It's been a rad relationship.
That's awesome. That's great. How funny is that first cold call?
First cold call, you always remember,
Oh yeah. I bet. That's awesome.
Yeah, and from the first time we met him in person, we just hit it off.
Yeah.
And so now we call him Uncle Brad.
Uncle Brad.
Nice. Hey.
Even though he's younger than all of us.
I was gonna say.
Seriously, every time we email him, like, hey, Uncle Brad, I need some hops or whatever.
Yes,
That's
that is
funny.
a name I have adopted, and hey, the amount of hops they buy, they can call me whatever they
Yeah,
want.
there you go. Yeah.
So what are you guys brewing today, if you don't mind me asking?
We're doing
For CBC.
double dry hopped hazy.
Nice.
Yeah, with, like he said, a bunch of New Zealand hops and then Idaho 7.
I'm so excited about the New Zealand stuff that's been happening this year. I mean, in their late, last year, it's just it's fun. It's a good flavor. It's exciting to see what beers people are throwing it into.
For sure.
So that's cool.
They're harvesting as we speak. right now. They started about a week ago. They're obviously Southern Hemisphere, so gives us the cue that we're 6 months off. But we bring in all of our inventory from Hop Revolution. They're rad,
Amazing.
independent farm down there. So yeah, it's something that we have a lot of pride in. It's really high quality. We're really happy to have it in the portfolio.
How do you pronounce Motueka?
Exactly that. It's
Okay.
Motueka.
All right,
Yeah.
all right.
Or Mott.
I've heard a few different
We've
ways.
heard a lot of different ways, yeah, at this point, yeah.
We just have a very good friend of this show. He called it Mashweka.
Mashweka.
One
Ooh,
time.
I don't know.
That's a spicy
like
take
it.
on
I
it,
like
right?
Still not sure if he was fucking with us or
Yeah.
not. though, so,
I don't care if he is or not. I just want to call it that
Yeah.
anyways. It's like, this is Mashweka.
But
The Kiwis call it Mott. So if
Really?
you want to be really local, you can call it Mott.
all right, well
Yeah.
that's probably the way to go. That's- all right,
So,
well, cool.
so you're up in Pacific Northwest. You fly down here with, I'm guessing, just a suitcase full of hops, and then you just meet Jason at the airport, and then you guys come here and brew.
Yeah, I mean it's
drive the dogs crazy at the airport.
exactly. yeah. Talk to a few TSA members.
You gotta go.
Is that genuinely an issue sometimes?
It's never really an issue. I mean,
Issue.
I can talk.
Wait. But you're actually bringing bundles of hops
you
with
are
you.
traveling
Yeah,
with
really?
that
Oh, that's
stuff.
awesome.
It looks
Oh, 100%.
suspect.
Oh,
I was gonna-
100%.
and it smells, and the dogs must smell it.
I haven't had. I've never had a dog
Good.
pick it up, but like
Nice.
you put it through the carry-on X-ray, and
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes
these
they'll kind of
pellets.
side eye you. But I've got all my logos on, business cards, and all
Right.
that stuff. So they
Very cool.
They haven't taken me into the back room yet.
That's good. Yeah. You haven't got the full
He's
pack
waiting
now.
for it.
Yeah. One of these days.
I keep
Can't wait.
asking, but nobody
Can't
ever
wait,
takes me
yeah.
up on the offer.
They don't take me up on it.
Jealous.
He starts taking off his shirt ahead of time. I'm ready.
I'm ready. Here we
You're like,
go.
no, we don't need to do this. But I'm
Not
ready.
what I asked you to do. That's great. That's awesome.
That's too funny.
All right. A question for you,
Yeah.
Jason. You guys are making a lot of church music.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
impressive. How's that been for you as a head brewer?
It's been chaotic.
Yeah, I bet.
honestly. Just trying to keep up with demand.
I saw them filling
It's
those
a-
kegs over there, man. It's such a badass little setup you guys got going.
Yeah, it's been an interesting ride. Honestly, I wasn't this gray 5 years ago.
Wow.
It's just wisdom.
Yeah.
That's
Knowledge right
Thanks,
there.
Uncle Brad.
See, that's the wisdom he drops here.
yeah. It's been cool. Honestly, when we first brewed church music, we made a couple tweaks in the beginning when we were dialing it in, but I always knew it was a good beer. I mean,
Right.
personal opinion, but I never thought it would take off like it has, which
Yeah.
is great.
Oh yeah.
But it's kind of crazy to see. I can go into restaurants or accounts that I don't even know were on tap,
I
and
know.
I see it. Like
We see it.
I was at some place. My friends were inviting me to brunch the other day. They couldn't go where they wanted to. They went to a place called Fat Willie's or something like that. I was like, boom, right there. Church music. I was like, what? That's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I'm so happy to see it.
yeah,
It's amazing.
It's wild, but we're brewing nonstop.
I know, I bet.
We're probably in a week and a half. We're starting a new production schedule. We'll be brewing on Saturdays now. So
Oh, wow,
we'll
it's
be
gotten to
brewing
there.
6 days a week in about a week and a half. Right now it's just Monday through Friday, about 4 a.m. to 9 p.m. But we're going to be adding Saturdays just to try to. We got some new tanks in, so we're adding that extra brew day to try to get some more liquid in tanks to get more product out there.
Well, you say new tanks, and the last time we sat down and recorded with you and brewed, we brewed our beer, right, at
Yeah.
that point. And this facility that we're in currently wasn't as filled as it was.
No.
And then you got the silo outside,
Yeah.
and then you got the tanks behind us.
I
and then
know.
next
Those
door.
things are
And
beauties.
it's just, it's amazing to see the amount. Like, you're like, oh, we got room to expand in here. And now it's expanded outside of here
It's
at this point.
gangbusters,
It is-
yeah.
It's crazy.
Because we ran out of square footage. Obviously, inside the building, we had 5 pounds of shit or 50 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag,
Yeah.
whatever they say.
Right.
Good enough.
Whatever the old timers say. What do they say? Uncle
Yeah,
Brad?
5
Right, what's
pounds,
the-
5 pounds of shit in a
Something about
10-pound
shit.
bag.
Yeah, right. So we had no other choice but to go outside.
So like Dave was telling us that they're specially engineered to be outside
Yeah.
in there, because that's the thing is you live in Arizona, it's brutal in the summer, right?
Yeah.
And you're like,
Oh, yeah.
oh, you got a metal tank outside, you got beer in there. Like what? Like that seems like there's a lot that goes into that. That's crazy.
And
Yeah.
the little tram. Whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
It's
the-
so
we call it the
sick.
bridge.
The
The
bridge.
bridge, yeah.
That's so
The beer
sick.
bridge, yeah.
It looks so great. And the way you guys put, it just looks like a piece of architecture. You did
Yeah.
well. You did well with it.
So at what point was it like, okay, well, we should build them outside compared to being just extend the building back? Like how does that work out? Like where do you go? Because that to me, like let's build a building around, let's expand the building out and then put tanks inside of it, compared to being like, let's not do the building, let's just put tanks out there. Like, like where does that? How does that come into it?
We looked at it from the aspect of there's a lot of dairies in Arizona, and all their tanks are outside.
Sure.
And it's like,
No kidding.
if dairies can do it, why can't beer? You know,
Absolutely.
Why can't we? And
Ask the right questions.
you know, we started looking into it and got with our tank supplier and started working on renderings and engineering with them on being able to do it. Obviously, we had to add a second chiller just to handle the
I was gonna say,
demand.
is it just sheeted in glycol up? You know, like
Yeah, so there's 6 extra inches of insulation. So you got
Holy
your
shit.
exterior stainless wall,
Yeah.
and then you got a bunch of insulation. Then you got another wall, and then you got your jacket where the glycol
jacket,
runs, and then there's
the tank.
and then the interior wall. So obviously the beer does.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's six
see a
inches,
cutaway one of
6
those.
inches of extra insulation, and then custom doors to go over the manway, because the manways are the only part of the tanks that aren't jacketed because they have to be opened
Gotcha.
to clean tanks.
Right. They can't be like that thick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So custom doors to cover those so the sun doesn't beat on them. But
Impressive.
shoot, how many do we got out? We got
Just
Yeah, 5.
I saw 5 on
we
the
have
one side.
8 outside
And then
now.
Yeah, 8 outside total?
Yeah, there's
Holy
3.
kid.
There's 3 behind the.
Oh, I meant
the
yes.
bigger ones.
Thank you. Yes.
So those were our original 3 that we got. And then when we started going to the 120 size, we added another chiller to help out our current chiller to help handle all that demand.
I bet. And you
So-
got that big building going up. We were talking about that. Hopefully, you get some afternoon shade from that.
Yeah, it's going to be nice because we get morning shade from the apartment complex to the east of us.
Oh,
and
nice.
now we should get some shade in afternoons on the west. It'll be nice in the summer,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's impressive. It's the volume and what you guys have stood up over there and here. It's very impressive.
Yeah.
And we were watching him filling kegs. I got the amazing photo of just like, you know, I think you guys were filling. He was filling like 10 kegs at a time or something
Yeah.
like that. And that's very cool,
Yeah.
man. It's so cool to see because, you know, as I've been in the valley for 18 years, and it's, you know, you see the Santans, you see the Four Peaks, they're on everybody's tap list. But you know what? Right now it's the same. But you know, now you see church music from the shop. It right there with it.
Yeah,
and
it's wild. I
badass.
walk into places, like I was saying earlier, I walk
you
into
still hear
places
it?
and I'm like,
over here.
Well, yeah, that's awesome. A week ago, I went to the grand opening of the Andretti, the new go-kart track. A buddy of mine got a special invite for the ribbon cutting ceremony, so I went with him. First people in there, you know, to enjoy the space, and I walk by the bar.
You did
going,
not.
Going
You were
to
not. This
play,
was not news to you.
I swear I didn't know. I was walking. We were going to play duck pin, you know, that bowling thing.
Yeah.
And we walked by the bar, and I'm like, "That's a church handle." I'm like,
That's so funny.
I was just like,
Well, that's where. I mean, that's how it is, though, man.
and I'm
You-
not in the sales side of
for
things,
sure.
so like,
you don't keep your finger on that pulse,
No.
but you're everywhere, man. And
Yeah.
it's so good to see.
it's wild.
So the amount of church music now at this point, you're producing so much. How does that deal? Like, how do you deal with having other batches of beer? Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you get other things you still want to get in and try other beer? Like the collab today. Like, how do you like have to schedule that? It seems like it's going to be. It's hard. It's a lot tougher than it needs to be, right?
It is. It's definitely a lot harder these days than it was back when we brewed with you guys, or
Right.
even other collabs. Just to give you perspective, what did I say? There's 8 tanks out back.
Yeah.
Of those 8 tanks, 7 of them have church music in them at all times, and that doesn't even include
That's so
the inside
badass.
tanks. Inside, we probably
okay.
have 5 or 6 tanks inside that have church in them at all times.
Wow.
I love it, man. I'd love to hear it.
So those 2 new fermenters that we just got, the big ones out back, that's obviously for more church music, but that'll help alleviate some of the inside tanks. So 2 of the inside tanks equals 1 of those big ones out back. So that'll free up at least an extra tank in here or 2 to start getting back into what we love doing is creative new recipes,
Right.
new beers to expand our portfolio in our own tap room and also with our distributor to try to get some more product out there. It's the growing pains, right?
Right. I mean,
David was saying you guys will move towards doing some German beers in the future here once things clear up. And that's great.
Yeah, so that's the plan. We have a lot of plans these days. There's always a plan in work, and so with the new building almost done,
Yeah.
I'm sure he gave you a tour of that.
It was
With all the
amazing
new canning system.
Your office looks sick. Your
Yeah.
door to your office is
Yeah.
ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, they actually probably didn't see it because it must have been after your tour. Dave and Dylan bought me the Happy Gilmore putter for my birthday.
Nice.
Because it was a couple weeks ago and it just came in today, so I stuck it in my office.
That's awesome.
It's gonna go on the wall in there. Yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
That's so cool.
That's great. Question for you there, Brad.
Uncle Brad. It's Uncle,
Uncle Brad. All right, let's
Dude,
make
you got to call him
make
Uncle
it
Brad
weird.
too.
I'm sorry.
Listen, if you want to be really good, it's Grunkle Brand.
Grunkle.
Brad.
Ooh,
or
I
Grunkle
like it.
Brad.
There you go.
Grunkle Brad.
More beers in
Grunkle.
you. Yeah.
yeah, Grunkle Brad.
Crosby Farms. How big? Let's tell a little bit about where you're working at, where you're coming from for our listeners. Just the size of your operation.
For sure. So from the farming side, we farm on about 700 acres. That's broken up into about a dozen plots of land, so it's not one contiguous piece. So that's what we're growing ourselves. We're also a merchant, so we also purchase off of other growers. So we'll get raw bales from a network of about 15 or 20 Pacific Northwest growers. You always want to spread your eggs out in case there's, environmental issues in one area or of another, or there's, smoke in one part of the country. So,
because you're not just a provider. I mean, you're not just a grower. You are.
We process. So we grow. We purchase bales off of other farms. We process into pellets.
Nice.
We have a lab on site. We have a whole, the whole sales staff, and we're selling direct into breweries. So,
Badass.
grower, processor, merchant, kind of all vertically integrated, so that we've got.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, buddy.
Everything you need.
Yeah, quality control is huge. So if you're not, if you're not, if your hands aren't on it throughout the entire process, you don't have quality. You don't have control over quality. So that's been huge for us since day one.
What's your? I'm sure it's hard. You said you got 12 different plots. How many different varietals you guys going to?
We grow.
It's
it kind of
difficult.
yeah. It varies year to year.
Probably changes.
Yeah, with demand and
Right.
the speed that varieties are coming out, and then ultimately
That's a good point.
coming into favor and going out of favor. So
you change it like
every
that.
year.
Yeah,
Every
no
spring.
shit.
So yeah, as I say, you can't really.
You couldn't be growing as much Galaxy as you used to grow, probably. Right?
There's certain varieties that become very popular, and then 2 years later, nobody wants them. You got to pull those out. So it's agriculture. It's tough. There's a lot of labor that goes into that. But
Interesting.
It's this symbiotic relationship with the brewing industry. So
right, you got to change with it.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. We both rely on each other.
Interesting.
Yeah. So like I say, we grow probably about 15 or so varieties.
Okay.
We really concentrate on growing really, really high quality public varieties.
Yeah.
We're not part of the Yakima Chief Network, which, Citra Mosaic, Simcoe, the Holy Trinity there.
Okay.
So, those aren't things that we concentrate or
You're not
specialize
worried
in.
about that particular. You don't even worry about.
No,
making that.
those varieties are great. They do those great. We concentrate on other varieties. So really Publix,
Awesome.
we grow great Cascade, Centennial, Chinook,
Nice.
the kind of the more old school varieties that are still
Nice.
very well used. They just don't have the impact or kind of the following that Citra Mosaic has, but Brewers still use a ton of those, and
bet.
we pair with
Cascade. Cascade's still one of my favorite hops ever.
Yeah, I say my favorite's Chinook. Chinook is one of those, especially right now with this resurgence in West Coast IPAs.
Yeah.
That is like the quintessential variety to use in that format. And
Yeah.
the fun part about being on the ag side, the soil that we have is different soil, different growing conditions than Yakima, and Yakima obviously is kind of the focus of the hop industry. But you can grow different varieties in Oregon that impart different kind of aromas and attributes than the exact same variety grown in different regions.
Nice.
So I'd say we're definitely kind of the outliers growing down in Oregon. It's a smaller, there's a smaller operation in Oregon than it is in Washington, and even Idaho has surpassed Oregon. So, but the conditions down there grow very unique varieties.
Yeah. You get some unique weather.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For
Very,
the
very much
ability.
different than Yakima. Yakima is hot and dry, a little bit of elevation. We're in a valley, and it's pretty wet most of the time, so different attributes come out.
Yeah.
But that's the fun part. That's these guys come out for selection each year, and that's where you can really, you put a bunch of lots in front of them, and you can really pick up different notes depending on the farm it's grown at, depending on the region, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I was gonna say is we've heard from different brewers before like that like we try to figure out sitting on the podcast and doing things. I'm like, oh, I'm heading out to wherever and doing a hop pick. And in my mind, I'm always like, man, that'd be a great vacation. Like that's just like a fun. I feel like a fun
It
time
seems
to
like
me.
a good time.
I mean, is
Yeah.
it like to you, like Jason? Is that like
Yeah,
something
it's a
you're
good
looking
question.
forward to every year? Like, is that
absolutely.
something you're like, okay, I want to see what they have?
It's got to be a highlight,
Right.
No, for sure.
Because you're choosing your hops for the
Yeah.
forthcoming year.
Yeah, and it's I'll start out with it. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I look forward to it every year. We have a
Right.
great time.
Stressful, I imagine.
It is. Well, the stressful part after the fun part. The stressful part is for instance, church music or any of our other core beers. You want it to taste
It's
the same,
consistency.
right?
Consistency is always key,
So,
right? That's what they say.
like he's saying, there's agricultural changes. So you gotta, it'd be nice to just go in there and just rub hops and be like, oh, this one's great. We'll take this one. But it's like when I go in there, I'm going in there with the mindset of like, I need to pick something that's almost damn near the same as our last year's lot. So
I know,
nothing
right?
will change. So like,
Right.
it would be nice just to go in there and just rub a bunch of hops and be like, I'll take these. Cause it's,
Yeah, they
but
smell
it's, like,
amazing.
it's a different game. You got to go in
Yeah.
there to keep the consistency of the beer. So when we're rubbing 5 or 6 different hops and then all the lots that go with it, it's a long, crazy day of just rubbing hops and smelling hops and
Yeah.
deciding between Dylan, Dave, and I of like, they kind of look at me and I'm like, well, you tell me what you thought first, and I'll tell you.
Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah.
Because we gotta pick the right one so the church music tastes the same year round,
Right.
every year.
Yeah. No, it's important. Yeah.
And so like he's saying, when agricultural changes, then we gotta kind of like, okay, sometimes we get some from Washington, right, and we rub those. I'm like, well, these are from their farms. I'm like, okay, which one do we go with? Sometimes we
Yeah.
get a lot from their farms. Sometimes we get from some of their partners, but
So-
it's all based on we need to get the right
So is-
flavor and aroma out of them for what we're brewing.
Well, I was going to say is
can't
is
imagine.
it some years you buy more of one hop because that's going to give you what you need compared to others, and other years you expand that. Like, how do you do that balancing act? Like, how is it? Like, is it more of like, because the during the brewing process, you're going to put hops in for different
Yeah.
times and stuff. Is it like, okay, well, if we buy more of this hop, we can put it in early versus later on, or like how does that? Like, how do you determine that? Like, I mean,
So the tough part about it too is, and he could probably speak to this number wise better than me because he handles our account, but it's very difficult, especially in the growth phase that we're in, because when we're rubbing hops, we're buying for next year.
right? Yeah.
So we gotta sit down or have phone calls and emails with him leading up to that, so he can pull the right hops and lots to look at based on what he knows we want. But then also we got to figure out like, okay, are we trying to brew 20,000 barrels next year, or is it going to be 30? Because that's a huge difference as far as contracting these hops. And so that's probably the most nerve-wracking part, is trying to be somewhat close to what we think we're going to be able to do to be able to buy the amount of hops we're going to need to
Yeah.
do that. And I mean, there's been years.
With all the growth you've seen, I can imagine that can be hard. That can be a moving target. That can be difficult to hit.
I think it was maybe last year. He'd know better than me, but we were short on hops because we grew so much more than we thought we would.
I bet. Yeah.
And so we're like, hey, Uncle Brad, remember your nephew out here in Arizona? We need some more hops. And he was able to get us some more because, sometimes they have some overages and move some stuff around, especially coming out of COVID. Some people over contracted.
Really? Okay.
So we were able to move some stuff around and get some extra stuff. But to me, rubbing's fun and it's challenging and nerve-wracking sometimes, but trying to figure out how much hops we're going to need for the previous year when we haven't even started brewing that year yet.
Yeah, the next one
That's
coming
the one
up.
that's
The
like,
projections of what you're going to do.
yeah, we need to be
Stuff.
somewhat close.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the more difficult aspects of buying hops is really predicting what your growth is going to be, what brands are going to grow. That's where it can kind of bite you in the butt. But these guys are, I mean, as I'm sure you've witnessed, like they're dialed. It takes a very dialed brewery to really be able to handle hop contracts and really like be able to. We've really. We came up, I think you guys burned through a little bit more Huel Melon last year than anticipated, but for most other varieties, like we hit on the head really, really well. So it takes a couple years at least for any brand to really get comfortable with those predictions. But the more you do it, the better you get at it. And you always want to err on the side of caution and you don't want to go over, but it's a tough thing to hit.
You don't plan on making a church music. I mean, you plan on it, but you don't
Yeah.
plan on what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
You plan on making a good beer like Business Ethics that everybody will like and will become popular.
Cheers to that. I was really excited to see it come back.
Business Ethics is very popular, and
Yeah.
people get excited when it comes out because
Yeah.
it's a great beer. But with church music's a little different, and you really just probably can't plan for something like that.
Yeah, it's hard.
You're like, we're gonna make a beer this year that's gonna go nuts and
Yeah.
basically,
yeah, you can
change
predict a
how we-
viral video.
It's
And
gonna
then the
change
next
how we
year-
distribute beer.
And the next year it's going to go even more nuts. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's like there's no magic 8 ball for that.
For sure.
It's like playing Russian roulette,
right.
choosing your hops.
So, Brett, what is it like getting ready for them to come up to actually do the rubbing
Yeah,
of the
that's
hops
a
and
good
stuff? Like,
question.
do you like ahead of time you have like a
Because you
kind of-
got to be hustling.
Well, I mean, I imagine like you already have in your mind like, okay, I've smelled these hops. I kind of know what they like already. I kind of want to like get them into these certain ones and put them in front of them and see what they think.
For sure. That's we have we call it selection season. So essentially the month of September and even into early October we have.
sleep.
It's a busy time of year. So we've got a lot of customers coming through in general. And the longer you've been doing it, and the more you know the brands that you're selling to, and their selections from previous years, that really guides kind of what I want to put on the table in front of them. They're pretty consistently choosing between Washington and Oregon lots year over year. So I probably won't put anything from Idaho in front of them.
Gotcha.
So you just kind of learn year after year as to
You're a hop som.
it's looking into the future,
You are.
trying to figure out what they're trying to target, and I am decent at sensory, but we've got a really good sensory team. So I really rely on their notes and kind of, they're looking for an Amarillo that they want it to be much more Mandarin than this or that. Then I can kind of guide and put the right lots in front of them
to find that.
Yep. Yep.
Interesting.
So it's like I said, it kind of comes with experience and kind of knowing the brands and knowing what their target is. But that kind of guides me to put what the right lots in front of them.
Interesting.
So do you being onboarded on the Crosby? Is there like a set, like you go through a sensory test, like kind of like figure out where you are, like do it yearly? Is it kind of like a reassuring, like a?
I don't, but we have a panel of probably about 8 to 10 people or so, mixed across the organization, from people that work in the office to sales folks to everything in between. They are really the ones that like inform me. Like, I rub hops and I can pick up intensities and I can pick up little attributes here or there, but I've never considered myself like any sort of an expert in picking up the nuances of, oh, that smells like, grapefruit pith, not the grapefruit flesh, and, stuff like that. So,
and I imagine they get right down to
absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. It is an art. I appreciate the folks that can kind of tease that stuff out, but I don't fool myself or anybody else into thinking that I've got these super smelling abilities. But you need a really good team around that, because it is so sensory sensory.
Oh, I'm sure you know enough to be dangerous.
Is that something that you feel like you can kind of grow, or is that something kind of like
I do?
Something you're born with, like
I think both.
Okay.
I have always heard that you can certainly train yourself, and it's like almost to the degree of just it's almost a muscle memory. When you're in the grocery store, you pick up something and you smell it, and then you do that over and over and over. You go outside and you scratch the edge of a pine tree, and you keep kind of like getting that sensory muscle memory going. And I think that helps a lot. I haven't picked it up like that, but you can certainly
He's not
learn
scratching
it.
trees.
Very interesting.
I just imagine like year after year of like getting notes from these people, and you're like, okay, well, I don't smell the grapefruit pith, but like after a while, you're like, okay, well, now maybe I'm kind of getting that. You basically kind of like you ease into a little bit more.
Reverse engineering it.
Yeah. You're like, okay, I can see what they're saying. That's pith. I can get that
for sure.
more.
And that's the interesting thing too, is when we do selection, we don't talk about
right. That's the thing. Is like,
You
between
don't.
Dave, Dylan, and I, we don't talk
You
about
don't.
it. We
You
rub
wait.
everything. We take our own notes. Because then,
And
like
then
he
you
was
meet.
saying, if you were like, oh, if he's reading
power
something,
Yeah.
It kind
it's
of
gonna. Oh yeah, I do
Suggestion.
smell
Oh, I
grapefruit
crazy.
pith. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
But do you, or are you just saying that because
Yeah.
you were told that?
right.
So when we do selection, we don't talk until
Interesting.
we're all done rubbing, and then we go back through our notes and we get it down to
Badass.
like maybe 2 different ones, and then we kind of rub again, and then we choose like the winner based on.
And when he's choosing a winner, is he basically looking at different lots grown on different parts of the farm, or is he looking at possibly lots grown at different times?
The timing is all going to be the same. Pick windows. Pick window is like when it's actually harvested. That's very, very important for the kind of being true to brand. If you pick something too early or something too late, just like a tomato, you pick it. Yeah, and any other agriculture, it needs to be right in the right pick window. So they'll be he'll be evaluating stuff that'll be grown in Oregon and in Washington, all within a pretty similar pick window.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
there are other factors.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, the soil being like the biggest one, the pick window being very, very important. Environmental issues, like I said, rain and heat, stuff like that. So,
and especially where you're at, I mean, you guys see different
year to year. Every year's different.
Do you? It's like traditional crops. You rotate them through fields because sometimes nutrients get pulled out of the soil. Is hops the same kind of way?
So hops are rhizomes that are underground. When we do need to switch out a field from one variety to the other, we will lift the rhizomes out and plant new ones. But we've got fields. We've got fields that are at least 10 years old, same rhizomes coming up every single year. They're very hardy. They're, they need to be about 2 to 3 years old before they actually have like a big full harvest.
Wow. Okay.
So that's one of the other factors that we're always juggling is with the kind of the hype of some varieties coming up and going down. We plant something. It's really a few years before we get it.
You're not going to have what you want out of it for 2 to 3 years. But you're trying to
and
react.
Then it could, the market could change and that variety is not in vogue anymore. And then we got to lift it. So yeah, it's
that's very interesting.
Yeah, it's agriculture. I've worked on the other side of beer from production, distribution, sales, and stuff. I've never had my feet in the dirt, as I kind of call it, and it's really cool to see it from the agricultural side.
Oh, yeah, that's neat.
Even when, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think every time we've done selection, they are still harvesting when we're there.
Oh yeah,
they're still. So we're rubbing stuff that was just baled days before. Sometimes.
Oh, I bet it smells so
and
good.
And they're still in the fields picking stuff. And sometimes some of the lots aren't even ready when we're there, so they'll overnight them to us, and we'll do the rest of the selection here in the office or in the brewery, just because we need to do it as soon as possible.
So walking into a perfume shop or something like that, like they give you like coffee beans.
I know Crosby needs to get it going.
So, but that'd be great. That would be amazing.
Some Crosby colognes, dude.
He's going to a complete different. Yeah. But my thought was,
sorry,
how do you go from the different and how do you like kind of blink the palate out between all that? Like how is that possible?
That's a good point.
You actually kind of said one of the techniques that people use, coffee beans.
Okay.
That will kind of like reset the palate.
Okay.
We always have a cooler of not only beers, but waters. We have stuff like that. So these guys that are rubbing hops, like personally, like I feel like you go I call it nose blind.
Yeah.
You can go nose blind after about a dozen, lots that you're rubbing.
Right.
So, you got to kind of go outside, walk around, like take a moment to kind of let your senses reset. It's difficult, especially when they're selecting multiple varieties and you got 5 or 6 lots of each variety.
Yeah.
You really,
it's a long day.
A lot of people will,
I bet,
like kind of smell their armpit or something. Like it sounds kind of weird, but sort of
something a different smell. They can know
just to reset your senses. So that is super important because otherwise, you do go kind of numb to it.
Yeah, because you get
I have to imagine.
We get palate fatigue all the time, so you figure, you gotta have something.
And then they have this resin or
res remove.
Okay.
I was gonna
that we in between. I do it in between even if I'm picking, let's say Amarillo, or rubbing Amarillo, and there's 4 different Amarillos on the table. I do the wash in between each Amarillo too.
Yeah.
So nothing from the previous one carries over. So we're going through.
Yeah, your hands get just
trash can full of paper towels from just wiping it off to go to the next one.
That sounds so awesome, man.
I
want to I just want to watch one of those occur.
It's awesome if you don't have a beard.
Yeah, you get.
It's great. I was gonna say you have a second set of issues, don't you?
Yeah, and it's in my beard for and you smell it for days. Even as many times as you wash your hands, you just smell hops and you're sneezing.
I'm in.
Yeah,
fresh hops smell great. Day old kind of cheesy hops when it's in your beard, when it's in your skin, not as beautiful.
No.
Yeah,
that's the day you don't want to eat some food with your hands.
So sushi's out that day.
Yeah.
All right, fine.
So Crosby will have anywhere roughly, you said 15 varietals going at a time.
About that, yeah.
Roughly,
yep.
yeah. What's lasted? What has stayed on Crosby Farms? What is we produce a strong crop of that, and we need to produce a strong
pony child.
Centennial.
What did you say?
What's your pony child?
Centennial's our OG. That is, it's an easy hop to grow, but a very hard hop to grow well. Centennial is what I'd say we hang our hat on from a quality standpoint. The other two largest acreages by variety would be Amarillo, another difficult hop to nail. There's so much variability with Amarillo out there, and the pick window is so important.
Really?
And then Strata. So Strata is our third largest. Is developed by Indie Hops.
I wouldn't have guessed that. Okay, nice.
Strata is, I'd say the newest up and comer that has really established itself as a lasting proprietary variety. It's not going away.
It's a baseline that many brewers reuse.
Yeah, it's starting. It has probably we started carrying it about right when I started about 5 years ago or so, and it's just gained each year. Really versatile variety. So we do, while we're concentrating on public varieties, we also do grow some proprietary, and Strata would be the one that I'd say is the biggest out of our portfolio.
Very cool.
Yeah.
One thing you said earlier that I just want to call out, you said that, the resurgence of the West Coast, the West Coast, a clean West Coast will never die.
Yeah.
People may forget about it, but they're wrong. It is.
I love it.
That person's wrong.
They're an idiot.
They are not thinking.
Jason, tell us how you really feel.
I just feel that. I think it's nice to hear you say that.
Oh, yeah.
As a person who really has a view of that.
Yeah. I think brewers and us in the industry have willed West Coast and lagers back into focus.
100%. I listened back to episodes for the last couple of years for things. We did a 100 episode, and it is amazing how many people we've been like, "What's the next trended beer?" And they're like lagers, and it's it's one of those things where it's consistently across all of them. Everybody's like lagers are coming back, and then West Coast, for sure. Everybody was like, West Coast, they're coming back.
Yeah.
People are gonna get fatigued with all these hazies, and West Coast are gonna come back. And we're like, all right.
These New Zealand-based West Coasts. I had a Lawson's Kiwi. It was
nice.
stupid.
Dude, it was so good.
Was dumb.
That was
it's
so
just
good.
and brewers around here, they're getting those New Zealand hops in, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love seeing them put into a clean IPA.
Yeah.
It is so tasty.
The soil down there does really cool things. I mean, you can even grow. There's such thing as New Zealand Cascade, and you could take Cascade and grow it down there, and it creates a
whole other thing.
completely different attributes. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. The soil is very unique down there.
That's so interesting. Very cool. I could geek out with Brad for a while longer, but
Grunkle Brad.
Grunkle Brad. No, I think it's great. I think it's so interesting, especially seeing how Jason and you guys work with you so closely. I love it. It's such a clear indication of why you see quality. You can, if people put the effort into something like as basic as just choosing it seems basic, but it is so not.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's very neat.
So before we wrap up, Jason, I just want to ask you, so this came back, Business Ethics came back, got church music going.
Church
You're
music
talking
delicious,
about,
by the way.
More, traditional style beers. What does other things hold for you guys in the future? What do you guys what do you want to do as a brewer for the shop?
It's not necessarily on the board to brew, but it might be in your brain.
Right.
I think the next thing I'd like to do is do a Westie.
I want to
hopefully some of these tanks will free up and we can start experimenting with some more stuff. I know we've done some on the small on our pilot system, but it's only a few kegs and it lasts and it's gone.
Yeah.
But I think trying to get more in our portfolio, lagers and West Coasts. Obviously, we'll still continue to do hazies because they're fun and people are still hyped over them, like business ethics.
It's an important category
and other stuff. But
it's established itself. People want, and not only that, what's nice about church music is it feels a little lighter as far as a hazy goes.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about just hammering.
It's a little bit lighter bodied.
Yes.
Business
But you get
ethics
that
more
flavor.
on the heavier side of body.
There you go,
Obviously, that's purposeful.
Right.
But when we created church, right when the haze craze started, we wanted to create an easy drinking one that,
Mission accomplished.
And I don't mean to say this, but a lot of people that don't like IPAs because they don't like that bitterness and
they get ripped right into that.
Just like hops. I hate hops. We wanted to create one that everybody could drink and enjoy. That's still not going to give you that harsh bitterness. A little bit lighter body, so it's easier to drink for people that are getting introduced to craft, and not only that, hazies.
The hop sits on that sweetness, which is quite nice on that
for
beer.
sure. And then you got business ethics, a little heavier body that's got a little bit of bitterness in it, but it's still really light. and that's kind of like what we're going for. But I think West Coast and some more lagers.
Tingling. I'm trying
yeah.
not to get goosebumps, but I do. So it sounds good because I love it. I mean, you guys are doing great stuff. Brad, thank you so much for joining us. Because
Thanks for having me.
could pick your brain for hours. Thank you, and same with you, Jason.
Yeah.
Just to really appreciate
No
you guys.
worries, yeah.
I know it's not necessarily your favorite to sit down and chat with us, and
No,
not
you're
with
good.
us, but
No, it's mostly Nate. It's just Nate.
I didn't want to bring it up since you brought it up.
I just really appreciate having
Yeah,
you.
absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
very nice to be able to pick your brain a little
No,
bit.
for sure. Yeah, I don't
So.
sit down much, so it's kind of nice to sit
I
down for a
appreciate.
minute.
Well, I
Yeah.
appreciate it, dude. Big time, both of you.
Yeah.
All
Thanks,
right,
guys.
thanks everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cheers.
Great show. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Shout out to the mini donkeys.
The mini donkey. Yeah, they have a mini donkey farm down the street from there.
If you'd like to become a part of the Hoppy Craftsman beer community, here's where you can connect with us. Our website is hoppycraftsman.beer. You can find us on Instagram and Threads at Hoppy Craftsman. Our YouTube channel, Hoppy Craftsman. If you want to go above and beyond to support the show, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/hoppycraftsman. And we do have some supporters who are generous enough to donate to this show. And those people are Terrence Hollows, Jeff Johnson, Zach Dominguez, and Cena Gomez. If you want to support the show, we have multiple tiers. Just go to Patreon, like I said, patreon.com/hoppycraftsman and join one of our tiers.